second is about personal assets. Let's say if you're not a businessman, but you're generally an individual, you spend 35 years of your life in this jurisdiction, you've acquired a house, you've acquired cars, you have bank accounts, all of that. Now, again, two elements. One, do you have a will? Two, let's say there was no probate, wills and probate registry in operation prior to it. What was the effect prior to this actually came about? The effect was that if you had a will, it may or may not be recognized. There is uncertainty whether Sharia courts would recognize a will. It might be taken as, say, wishes of the testator, but there is no absolutely zero predictability as whether a given judge on a particular day will recognize your wishes or not. He may simply apply in his own thinking Sharia principles because that's what he's trained to do. He will make no distinction. So we have had discussions with several practitioners in this space, and there is no categorical answer as to how a Sharia court would treat the estate with a will or without a will. So either way there was an uncertainty. Now, what the will does for you is essentially outlines your wishes as to how you want your estate to be dealt with on your passing away. What is the difference between just having a will and having a registered will? If you have a will, it is evidence that this is how you want things to happen. When you have a registered will, it is treated as proven. You don't need to prove that will any further in the court. And that is the real benefit of this registry. That is when you actually put your will together and you register it, there is you do not, the burden of proof as to that this was the intention of the person who passed away no longer needs to be proved. The dispute, if at all, will arise if somebody says, yes, this will was registered, but it does not reflect the true intention of the party who registered the will. In which case, as you might say, the burden of proof, of evidence, moves to the party who alleges the will is not correct. The will is taken to be correct by law because it is registered. So that is the significant advantage of having a registry. Now, you can compare that with, say, from a risk professional perspective, to the absence of a pledge registry. There is no pledge registry, so the pledges are uncertain. If there was a registry of pledges, the evidential requirement of proving the pledge goes away. Nobody needs to actually say this pledge is correct or incorrect because it is registered. Same effect applies on a will. Nobody can say whether it is valid or invalid will because it is registered. If I say it is invalid, I have to show circumstances and evidence as to why it was invalid. And if you will, if you're not familiar with it, but if you would have seen issues about this, circumstances would be, well, when the person who was making the will, he was incapacitated, he was of unsound mind, or he was under influence. These are the typical grounds taken where people seek to challenge a will, whether registered or unregistered. So what does this will do for, say, all of us, including myself, is to, if I have assets which I believe are at risk, then I register them, I put my wishes in accordance with the law, I provide a schedule of assets, and that gets registered. On the face of it, it is a fairly simple exercise. But the simplicity of the exercise gets tested when you actually go and seek a probate. Probate means that you are taking the will to the court and saying, I now seek to enforce this will against the assets in favor of the person who is the intended recipient of these assets. And the court will look at it and then obviously set out a period during which objections will be invited. If nobody objects, a probate will be granted and then I will take the probate to the relevant jurisdiction, in which case being the Dubai courts, and the Dubai courts will then issue an order that if it's a bank account, it now renews to the benefit of this individual. If it is a car, it renews to the benefit of this individual. If there are shares, they will be go to these individuals in this capacity.